In the absolute chaos of World War II, there was this single moment of compassion that, honestly, it defied all logic. It's a story that was buried for decades, a secret shared between two enemies who met in the sky. And it's a testament to an honor that went way beyond the battlefield.
So just imagine this for a second. You are the pilot of a crippled American bomber flying deep in enemy territory. A German fighter plane pulls up right alongside you, so close you can actually see the pilot's face. You brace yourself for that final attack, and then just silence. Nothing. That's the mystery at the very heart of this incredible story.
So let's set the scene. Our story kicks off in the freezing skies over Germany on December 20th, 1943. For one B-17 crew, this day would turn into an absolutely desperate flight for survival.
Okay, meet Second Lieutenant Charlie Brown. He and his crew have just finished a bombing run over an aircraft plant in Bremen. But their plane, a B-17 they called Healed Pub, it's barely holding itself together.
And when I say the damage was catastrophic, I mean it. This wasn't just some minor hit. One engine was totally gone, another is about to give out. Their tail gunner was dead, and a lot of the crew were badly wounded. The electrical, hydraulic, and oxygen systems were shot. The radio, destroyed. The entire nose cone was just gone, and the fuselage was ripped wide open to the freezing air. By all accounts, this plane should not have been in the sky.
And their odds? Pretty much impossible. They had to fly 250 miles over hostile territory and the freezing North Sea just to get back to England. All of this in a plane that was literally falling apart around them.
Okay, now let's flip the script. Let's shift to the other cockpit. Because at the exact moment Charlie Brown was fighting to stay alive, a German pilot on the ground spotted that limping bomber and scrambled to go after it. This is Franz Stigler. He was a veteran German fighter ace with 27 victories under his belt. He was on the ground, refueling, when he saw Ye Old Pub struggle past his airfield. So he immediately jumped in his Messerschmitt Bf-109 and took off with one very clear objective: destroy the enemy.
But as Stigler closed in for the kill, he saw something that just stopped him cold. He could see right through the gaping holes in the bomber. He saw the dead tail gunner, he saw the wounded crew huddled together, and he was just stunned. He had never, ever seen a plane so completely destroyed still manage to stay in the air.
So, a huge conflict was raging inside Stigler's cockpit. On the one hand, his mission was simple: shoot down the enemy bomber. But on the other hand, he lived by this code of honor that a commanding officer had taught him. You never, ever shoot a man in a parachute.
Stigler looked at the crew of Ye Olde Pub, wounded and totally defenseless, and he saw them as men in parachutes. To him, shooting them down, well, that wouldn't be combat. That would be murder. So what does a pilot do when his duty conflicts so directly with his conscience?
He made an absolutely extraordinary choice. Instead of attacking, he flew right alongside the B-17. He was trying to gesture to Charlie Brown, telling him to land, because he knew that plane would never make it back to England. When Brown didn't, Stigler made another decision. He would protect them. He flew in a tight formation, hoping that his own German plane would stop his side's anti-aircraft gunners on the coast from opening fire.
Once they were safely out over the North Sea, clear of German airspace, Stigler pulled alongside them one last time. He looked over at Charlie Brown, raised a gloved hand in a simple, respectful salute, and then he just peeled his fighter away and returned to Germany.
Now, Charlie Brown did make it back to England, but the story, well, it didn't end there, not by a long shot. In fact, for both of these men, the hardest part was just beginning, living with a secret they could never, ever share.
See, when Brown told his superiors what happened, he was ordered to keep it quiet. Allied command did not want stories about honorable German pilots getting out. And for Stigler, well, if he told anyone he'd spared an enemy bomber, it would have meant a court-martial and probably execution. So both men just buried the story.
Just look at how much time went by. The war ended, decades passed, and this secret just stayed locked away. It wasn't until 1986, over 40 years later, that Charlie Brown finally felt like he could tell his story in public. And that decision, it set a search in motion that would take 4 more years to complete.
As the years turned into decades, the weight of that secret and just the fog of time started to play tricks on Charlie Brown's mind. He knew what he saw, but he desperately needed to find the man who saved him, just to prove to himself it wasn't some kind of dream.
That's the question that really started to haunt him. I mean, after being told to keep silent for so long, and with the memories all hazy from the stress and his injuries, Brown actually started to doubt himself. Could he have just imagined the whole thing? The escort, the salute? Was any of it real?
And then, in 1990, a breakthrough. After years of searching, placing ads in pilot newsletters, Charlie Brown got a letter. It was from Franz Stigler, who had moved to Canada after the war. And in that letter, Stigler confirmed every single detail of Brown's story. The ghost was real.
What happens next is maybe the most incredible part of this entire story. These two men, who had met as mortal enemies in the sky, would finally meet again as friends, right here on the ground.
Just think about that. 47 years, nearly half a century had gone by since that crazy day over Bremen. 2 whole lives had been lived, families raised, careers built, and all that time this shared secret connected them across the globe.
And here's the final, just astonishing twist. They found out where they had both ended up after the war. Stigler was in Vancouver, Canada, and Brown was down in Seattle, Washington. For years, they had been living less than 200 miles away from each other.
And when they finally met, they became like brothers. They spent the rest of their lives sharing their story, visiting each other, going fishing together. Their bond, which was forged in a moment of life and death, became this powerful testament to a shared humanity that is so much bigger than war.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. Franz Stigler could have easily shot down that bomber. No one would have known. He would have been celebrated, called a hero, but he chose a different path. It really makes you wonder, what is the true measure of our character? Is it what we do when everyone's watching? Or is it about the choices we make when we think no one else can see?